Good morning, everyone. Myself is Kiran Mayi, lecturer in physics working at Government City College. Today, we are going to discuss about the motion of a particle. On the basis of different observations on Earth, Newton introduced three laws of motion. These three laws of motion are the core of classical dynamics. On the other hand, on the basis of observations made on the motion of planets, Kepler developed the three laws of planetary motion. Kepler's laws have been used successfully to explain various astronomical and terrestrial phenomena of motion of bodies. The main aim is to discuss about these laws. Newton's first law. According to first law, every body continues in the state of rest or of uniform motion in a straight line unless an external force acts on it to change that state. So, the body is reluctant to change its present state. This property of the body is known as inertia. Hence, the Newton's first law of motion is also known as law of inertia. The Newton's first law can also be stated in following manner. If the vector sum of all the forces acting on a particle is zero, then and only then the particle remains at rest or moves with constant velocity. The concept of rest, motion, or acceleration is only where a frame of reference is specified. Newton's first law is really a statement about reference frames. Actually, the motion of a body can be described only relative to some other body. For example, a passenger in an aircraft which is on its takeoff run is at rest relative to aircraft, but he is in a accelerated motion relative to the earth. So we always choose a set of coordinate axes attached to a specified body relative to which the motion of a given body is described. Such a set of coordinate axes is known as reference frame. A frame of reference is said to be inertial when bodies in this frame obey Newton's law of inertia and other laws of Newtonian mechanics. In this frame, a body not acted upon by external force is at rest or moves with a constant velocity. Experiment shows that all inertial frames are equivalent for the measurement of physical phenomena. Observations in different frames may obtain different numerical values for measured quantities. But the relationship between the measured quantities, that is the laws of physics, will be same for all the observers. Next is Newton's second law. On the basis of interaction of various mass points with surrounding bodies, it has been observed that the product of the mass point by its acceleration is a function of the position of this point relative to surrounding bodies and sometimes a function of its velocity as well. This function is denoted by capital F and is called as force. This constitutes the basis of Newton's second law, which may be stated as the product of the mass m of a mass point by its acceleration a is equal to the force acting on it. That is, ma equals to f. This equation is referred as the equation of motion of a mass point. The force is defined as the derivative of a momentum p of a point mass point with respect to time, that is dp by dt, because p equals to mv as m is constant and dp by dt equals to ma. Hence f equals to dp by dt. So Newton's second law may be stated as the time of charge of momentum of a particle is equal to the net force acting on the particle and takes place in the direction of force. And it also provides a means of comparing or defining masses. Let two bodies of masses m1 and m2 are acted on by the same force F. Suppose the bodies gain acceleration a1 and a2, then F equals to m1 a1 and F equals to m2 a2. m1 a1 equals to m2 a2, that is m1 by m2 equals to a2 by a1. Thus, we define the ratio of the masses of two bodies to be the inverse ratio of accelerations given to the bodies by the same force. It can also be shown that Newton's first law of motion is the special case of Newton's second law of motion. Next is Newton's third law. A force acting on a body arises as a result of its interaction with another body surrounding it. It has been observed that whenever one body exerts a force on the second body always exerts on the first body. A force which is in equal magnitude but opposite direction and has the same line of action. These forces are known as action and reaction. Either force may be considered as action and the other one as a reaction. This property of forces was stated by Newton in his third law of motion as follows. To every action, there is always an equal and opposite reaction. Let F12 be a force acting on a body 1 due to body 2 and F21 be the force on the body 2 due to body 1. Then F12 equals to minus F21. It should be remembered that these forces act on different bodies. If they were act on the same body, then we could never have accelerated motion because in that case net force on the body would be zero. Example, suppose a table exerts an upward force R on a book placed over it. This force is considered when we take the book as the system. The book pushes the table down with an equal force R. This force acts on the table and should be considered only when we take the table as the system. Thus, only one of the two forces connected by the third law may appear in the equation of motion depending on the system chosen. Next is system of variable mass. The figure shows a system of variable mass m whose center of mass is moving with velocity v as seen from a particular reference at any instant t. At a later instant t plus delta t, a mass delta m has been ejected from the system and its center of mass moves with a velocity u as seen by an observer. Now the system mass is reduced to m minus delta m and the velocity v of the center of mass of the system is changed to v plus delta v. The system represents a motion like of a rocket. Considering both the parts of mass as delta m and m minus delta m as forming one and the same system, we can write F exertion equals to Pf minus Pi by delta t. That is m minus delta m into v plus delta v plus m delta u minus m delta v by delta t, where Pf and Pi are the initial and final momentum of the system. F exertion equals to m delta v by delta t minus v into delta m by delta t minus delta v into delta m by delta t plus u into delta m by delta t. If delta t approaches 0, the configuration on the right hand side approaches that left hand side. That is delta v by delta t approaches to delta v by delta t is the acceleration of the body. Since there is a decrease in the mass with the time, hence delta m by delta t is replaced by minus dm by dt as delta t approaches 0. Finally, delta V goes to 0 as delta t approaches to 0. F exertion equal to m into dv by dt plus v into dm by dt minus u into dm by dt. That is d by dt of mv minus u into dm by dt. The above expression expresses Newton's second law as applied to a body of variable mass. It is obvious from this equation that d by dt of mv is not equal to the external force acting on the system unless the ejected mass comes out with zero velocity. Therefore, the above expression expressed as a f extension equal to m dv by dt plus v dm by dt minus u dm by dt. That is m dv by dt equals to f extension plus u minus v dm by dt. The last term of above equation is the rate of change of momentum of the system due to mass leaving it. This can be regarded as the reaction force exerted on the system by the leaving mass. For a rocket, this term is called the thrust, and it is the rocket designer's aim to make it as large as possible. Therefore, m dv by dt equals to f extension plus f reaction. Motion of a rocket. The rocket is an example of system of variable mass. The rocket consists of a combustion chamber in which liquid or a solid fuel is burnt. In former case, the fuel like a liquid hydrogen or a liquid paraffin uses suitable oxidizer like oxygen, nitric acid, etc. stored in separate chambers are injected into combustion chamber. While in the later case, the fuel, gunpowder, which itself carries its own oxidizer from a single chamber, is injected in the combustion chamber. When the fuel is burned, the pressure inside the chamber rises very high. Due to high pressure inside the combustion chamber, the hot gases are expelled from the tail of the rocket. The expelled gases are in the form of a jet with a very high exhaust velocity. Consequently, the rocket rushes in a direction opposite to the direction of escape of gases. The motion of the rocket can be explained on the basis of Newton's third law of motion and the momentum principle. Let m be the mass of rocket including fuel and v its velocity at any instant in laboratory frame of reference. Let in a time interval dt an amount of mass dm is ejected from the rocket in the form of gas jet. Suppose minus u is the velocity of gas jet with respect to rocket. Then the velocity of gas jet in the laboratory from will be v minus u. Let v minus u equals to v reaction. The rate of change of momentum of jet issuing out of the rocket, that is force acting on the jet, equals to rate of change of mass of rocket due to escape of hot gases into velocity. dm by dt into v minus u. From the Newton's third law of motion, this is equal to the thrust on the rocket tending to move it in the forward direction. Therefore, thrust acting on the rocket to move it forward equals to dm by dt into v minus u. Let F extension be the external force acting on the rocket. Here F extension equals to mg, where mg is the weight of the rocket. Then force acting on the rocket in forward direction equals to dm by dt into v minus u minus mg. From Newton's second law, the force on the rocket equals to d by dt of mv. From equations, both the equations, d by dt of mv equals to dm by dt of v minus u minus mg. Therefore, by changing that equation, m dv by dt equals to minus u into dm by dt minus mg. That is dv by dt equals to minus u into 1 by m into dm by dt minus g. Consider the magnitude of v and u. We have dv equals to minus u dm by m minus g dt. Integrating from the beginning of the motion t equals to 0 upon an arbitrary time small t, velocity v and mass m, we get integral v naught to v dv equals to minus u into integral m naught to m dm by m minus g into 0 to t dt. Therefore, applying the limits, we get v equals to v naught plus u into log to the base e m by m naught minus gt. The above equation represents the velocity of v of the rocket at any instant t. Special cases, if the force of gravity is ignored, then v equals to v naught plus u into log to the base e m naught by m. Further, if the initial velocity v naught of the rocket is 0, then v equals to u into log to the base e m naught by m. Next is multi-stage rocket. The rocket depends upon the principle of jet propulsion. The principle of jet propulsion depends upon the law of conservation of momentum. According to the law of conservation of momentum, the jet emerging in the backward direction makes the rocket to move in the forward direction. The velocity attained by the rocket is approximately 4 kilometers per second. To obtain higher velocities, multi-stage rockets containing 2 or more stages are employed. For example, in the case of 3 stages rocket, the first stage is very robust and heavy. The second stage is comparatively smaller than the first, and the third stage is smallest as well as lightest. First of all, the first stage of rocket is due to acquire the acceleration of the rocket. When the fuel of the first stage is exhausted, it detaches from rocket and drops off. The velocity at this stage becomes the initial velocity of the second stage. Now the second stage is ignited, that is, it starts functioning. The rocket gains acceleration and its velocity goes on increasing. The removal of the surplus mass contained in the first stage considerably helps in attaining the higher velocity. When the fuel of the second stage is exhausted, it detached from the rocket. The velocity acquired so far by the rocket is less than the escape velocity, that is 11.2 kilometers per second. Finally, the third stage rocket starts off when the required velocity. Next is central forces. A central force is defined as the force which always acts on a particle or body towards or away from a fixed point and whose magnitude depends upon only on the distance from the fixed point. This fixed point is known as the center of force. It is convenient to express the central force in polar coordinate system. Let O be the center of force which is taken as the origin of coordinate system. P is a particle whose polar coordinates are r and theta. The central force on particle P is expressed by F. Mathematically, F can be expressed as F equals to R of F of R, where f of r is a function of the distance r of the particle from the fixed point and r vector is unit vector along the radius r of the particle with respect to that fixed point. In case of two particles, The magnitude of central force depends upon the distance of separation of two particles and the direction being along the line joining the particles. Here there are these so many examples of that. From that we can take the central force as F of R is directly proportional to 1 by R square. The earth moves round the sun under the central force which is always directed towards the sun. Just like that, another example is F of R equals to C by R square. The electron in hydrogen atom moves under central force which is always directed towards the nucleus. A particle attached to one end of a spring whose other end is stationary in an inertial frame of reference is also an example of a central force. In this case, the elastic force acting on the mass is expressed as F equals to minus kx. Next is conservative nature of a central force. Conservative force is nothing but a force is said to be conservative when the work done by the force in moving a particle from a point A to a point B is independent of the path followed between A and B is the same for all the paths. The work done depends only on the particle's initial and final positions. In addition, the work done by conservative force along the closed path is zero. Consider a particle is taken from point A to point B through the path AP P dash B and AQ Q dash B as shown in the figure. The amount of work done by the force F is integral A to B F dot dr. Now that shows a conservative force as a negative gradient of a potential energy. When a particle acted upon a conservative force F moves from space point x naught, y naught, z naught to another space point x, y, z, then potential energy at R is given by U of R equals to minus integral R naught to R F dot dr. That is F and dr in rectangular coordinates as follows. F equals to Ifx plus jfy plus kfz. Dr equals to idx plus idjdy plus kdz. F dot dr equals to, substitute that equations, we get fx dex plus fy dy plus fz dz. U of R equals to minus integral R naught to R F dot dr. Substituting that, we get integral U of x y z. Differentiating the equation partially with respect to x y z, we get fx equals to minus dou u by dou x, fy equals to minus dou u by dou y, and fz equals to minus dou u by dou z, where capital F equals to fxi plus jfy plus kfz. Now substituting that, we get a minus del u, that is minus grad u. Thus the conservative force is equal to the negative gradient of potential energy. Curl of conservative force, we know that F equals to minus del u. Curl F equals to del cross F equals to del cross of del u. That is del cross of I dou u by dou x plus j dou u by dou y plus k dou u by dou z. Substituting that, we get u is a perfect differential. We get dou square u by dou y dou z equals to dou square u by dou z dou y. Curl F equals to del cross F equals to 0. Next is conservation of angular momentum. According to law of conservation of angular momentum, if no external torque acts on a body rotating about a fixed point, the angular momentum of the body remains constant. Consider that a particle is subjected to a central force. The central force is expressed as F equals to R vector F of R, where vectors F and R lie in the same line. By definition of a torque, tau equals to dl by dt equals to R cross F, where L is angular momentum. Substituting the value of F from equations, we get dl by dt equals to R cross of R vector of F of R. That is dl by dt equals to 0. Integrating, we get L equals to constant. Hence, the angular momentum of a particle under the influence of a central force remains constant. Examples of conservation of angular momentum are motion of a planet in its orbit. We know that planets move in an elliptical orbit around the sun, with sun at one of the foci. The gravitational force on the planet is directed towards the center of the sun. So the force is a central force. Due to this fact, the angular momentum of the planet will be constant. Next one is scattering of alpha particles by a heavy nucleus. When an alpha particle comes closer to the nucleus, it gets deflected or scattered due to electrostatic force of repulsion. It follows a hyperbolic path with the nucleus as its external focus. The electrostatic force of repulsion, which varies inversely as the square of the distance, is a central force. Hence, angular momentum is conserved. Next one is conservation of angular momentum may be illustrated with the help of following example. Consider a man standing on a turntable with his legs apart and his arms extended with a dumbbell in each hand. Let the turntable be allowed to rotate slowly. If the man brings his legs close and drops his hand to his sides, then he will rotate with the greatest angular velocity. The reason is that the moment of inertia of the man about the axis of rotation is decreased. Due to conservation of angular momentum, his angular velocity is increased. Next is collision in 2 and 3 dimensions. Two-dimensional elastic collision, there we have four unknown quantities, namely the two components of velocity for each of two particles after collisions, but we have only three known relations between them. One for the conservation of kinetic energy and conservation of momentum relation for each of the dimensions. Thus, in 2 or 3 dimensions, the two conservation laws alone cannot tell us the motion of particles after a collision. Hence, some additional information must be obtained. This can be explained by the figure. The distance b small b between initial line of motion and a line parallel to it through the center of target particle is called impact parameter. B equals to 0 corresponds to head-on collision. After collision, the particle m1 makes an angle theta 1 with the initial direction, while the target projectile m2 initially at rest moves in a direction making an angle theta 2 with the initial direction of a incident projectile. Applying the conservation of momentum, we obtain the following equations. m1 v1 equals to m2 v2 f cos theta 1 plus m2 v2 f cos theta 2. 0 equals to m1 v1 f sin theta 1 minus m2 v2 f sin theta 2. Considering the collision to be elastic, the conservation of kinetic energy gives half m1 v1 square equals to half m1 square plus half m2 v2 square. We know that initial coordinates m1, m2, vif we are left with four unknowns v1f, v2f, theta 1 and theta 2. So we can determine the motion after collision only if we specify a value for one of these quantities such as theta 1. Next is impact parameter and scattering cross section. Impact parameter: consider a positive particle like a proton or an alpha particle approaching a massive nucleus N of an atom as shown in figure. Due to Coulombic force of repulsion, the particle follows a hyperbolic path AB with the nucleus N as its focus. In the absence of the repulsive force, the particle would have followed the straight line path AC. As shown in figure, P is the perpendicular distance from the nucleus N to the original direction AC of the particle. The distance Nm equals to P is called the impact parameter. Thus, impact parameter is defined as the closest distance between the nucleus and positive charged particle projected towards it. This is known as collision parameter. Scattering cross section: when alpha particles are projected into a thin metal foil, they are deflected or scattered in different directions. Let capital N be the incident intensity. Suppose Dn be the number of particles scattered per unit time into solid angle d omega located in the direction theta and phi as in figure with respect to the bombarding direction. The ratio dn by n is called scattering cross section. Thus, the scattering cross section in a given direction is defined as the ratio of number of scattering defined as scatting into solid angle d omega per unit time to the incident intensity. This is called as the scattering.